What's up? What's happening? It's very, very dark here, isn't it? Look at them shadows. Well, I would have to park in the face of the sun, but it is what it is. So guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Dara, what is happening with the defeat situation? How are you feeling? What are you doing? What is the plan of action moving forward? Well, have I got a revelation for you? But you're going to have to wait until later on in the video to find out what that is. Myself and C Chisel are on her lunch break. We're currently at the gym now. We're going to go in. We're going to train pull. I'm going to take you through a little bit of a voiceover for the workout today. And then we will catch up with you with the updates on the plans of action moving forward once we get out of the session. All right? Hello, you cunts. How are we? So something different for today's voiceover. We're going to do a little talking head down here in the corner. So first off, we're going to pick our song. Adam Bear, DCR, Drum Code Live, of course, it has to be for the pull day here. So every single pull day, we start off with some hanging leg raises, as many reps as possible. I believe I got like 15 here. So as you'll see guys, when I'm doing these hanging leg raises, right, I'm keeping my hips in like a very stationary position, okay? I am hanging from the bar, right, gripping nice and tightly, keeping, you know, myself as braced as I possibly can. And literally the only thing that's moving here is those like bottom abdomens, right? I'm literally just forcing those legs up using solely my abs, no swinging, no momentum. You can even see when I kind of lower my legs, I'm coming down nice and slowly, right? I'm actually stopping the momentum at the bottom and kind of dead stopping ish, and then I am dragging those heels back up towards the top again. Now 15 reps is pretty decent for 110 kilos guys. When I was like 85 kilos, I could literally just kick my toes the whole way up to my head here for about 15-20 reps, but we're not that mobile anymore, unfortunately. Now, next exercise, we've got the single arm Nautilus pull down. As you'll see here, guys, as I'm getting set up into this movement, right, I kind of use both hands to pull that weight down, okay? Then I kind of brace off that little kind of pole in front of me, put myself into position, and then I will pull from there, right? As I'm performing these reps, what I'm trying to think about is keeping everything fully braced, right? Keeping my kind of core braced, keeping that hand braced across the little bar in front of me, and trying to reach away from my body as much as possible with my right arm, stretching out the lat fully, but also whilst keeping the shoulder kind of down and in the socket, right? There's a tiny bit of protraction in the shoulder here, but not much at all, okay? And that's absolutely key on this one. I also put in the left hand side here so you can kind of see that a little bit more clearly also as well. Same setup, you know, getting myself into position first, and then I will drag down. On a pull down, guys, what you always want to think of, and on any back work, is you want to drag with your elbow, okay? So when I get up to the top here, I'm pausing in that stretch and I'm dragging down with my elbow. But at the same time, right, we don't want to pussyfoot around it, right? We want to be a little bit explosive. So you drag with the elbow, yes, you don't jerk with the hand and the shoulder, but you still need to pull that elbow down into your pocket as hard as possible, because I go through execution on this one with clients all the time, and you know, I tell them, oh, you need to drag your elbow down into the pocket and stuff, and then they end up with this like super slow motion drag, and you don't want to do that, right? You still want to have a little bit of aggression, but it is going to be controlled aggression here, right? Next exercise up. Oh, quick outfit change for myself here on the prime seated row. That was C Chisel doing her set. So we've got the prime seated row here. I'm counting Chloe down 3, 2, 1, and giving a little bit of a spot there just to get that first rep up, not to waste any energy for the actual set that matters. Now, this is my all-time favorite back exercise. I absolutely fucking love this piece. I've worked it up quite nicely. I think I'm doing like 90 kilos, 4.5 plates on the top, and then I got 40 kilos in the middle. This is, you know, pretty heavy for anyone who's used it, but it just feels so good, especially in that stretch position at the bottom. So, you know, I'm coming forward again, same thing with my arms, reaching them away from me as far as possible, but keeping that chest up and not letting it kind of overly cave here at all. What are we saying about that explosive fibers fit as well? Now the kit is off, things are starting to get a little bit serious here. So second set in the prime seated row, I actually have 3 sets on this. So I'll start off loading the top range, which is the lengthened range, and in the middle, right? And then I will strip a plate from probably top peg and middle peg, or actually just the top peg here. And then for my final set, I'll load all the lengthened range, so it'll be all top peg. You can see better from this angle, like my kind of chest position, right? So reaching those arms forward as far away from me as I can, but not letting that chest cave and not kind of artificially getting, you know, more length there with my arms, just allowing my actual upper back to, you know, stretch out as much as possible, but, you know, keeping the brace in here. Because if your chest kind of caves, guys, what you'll find is to get back into that position to actually pull from with your upper back, you need to kind of use your shoulders and you need to use a little bit of momentum, so it's just not pleasant. Next exercise up, we've got the Cybex Eagle Row. As you can see here, right, I'm adjusting my setup before I get into the swing of this movement, right? I was actually working in with a guy who was doing this as well, and I'm not just going to hop on and just fucking do it whatever way he has it set up. I'm going to do it the way I know it feels the best for me. So I raise the seat, you know, I actually put that chest pad back a little bit further as well to put myself in the optimal position. Now what you'll notice here, guys, is this is my horizontal row variation for my lats. I did my vertical pull down variation for my lats, but the bracing is practically the exact same here. Okay, I'm doing this single arm. I am bracing with that right arm kind of like facing away here, and then I'm pulling with the left arm, but I have a slight tilt into that left hand side oblique, right? And again, same principle here, kind of keeping that chest up, reaching the arm away from me as much as possible, but not letting that kind of shoulder and the kind of upper back like overly cave or unnecessarily cave here at all. So I love this piece. I feel it a lot in the like lower lats, which I know is very bro, but the lower lats I feel are like an area that I really need to bring up. So I love that Cybex Eagle piece for that reason, as I feel like it's adding new tissue to areas that I don't have it. Next up here, we've got the heaviest fucking pull down machine known to man, the Prime Prototype Row. So I was actually doing 2 plates on the top peg here in the previous session, but I just wasn't happy with it. It was just a little bit too sloppy for my liking, because with upper back exercises like this, like a lat pull down variation, right? What I see a lot of is guys will come down and they won't wrap their elbows back around their body. So you see when I come down here, I'm getting my elbows right back behind my body there. On the last couple of reps, like maybe the last like rep or two, my elbows are starting to finish kind of like in line with my torso, and even here, my elbow kind of finishes just above my torso before I use a little bit of momentum to get it back. And when that happens, guys, you're turning an upper back exercise into a glorified rear delt exercise, okay? So if you find that you're doing any sort of lat pull down variation and you can't fully bring those elbows back and wrap them around your body, then you're losing out on a lot of gains there, in my opinion, right? You're not kind of truly working the muscles you want to work there. Now, next up, we've got another all-time favorite exercise here. This is the single arm cable high curl. I'm doing this in between a wide cable stack. Yes, that is a wide cable stack. I am actually just that massive. Wingspan of LeBron James on the boy. So I'm using my left hand side to brace here, and I'm using my right hand side to pull. Much better setup like this. You can see my outrageously long bicep inserts here also, so they're going to take a long time to fill out, I'll tell you that much. Now, next up, we've got some rear delt here. So as you'll see, I went from a bicep exercise to a rear delt exercise, and then my last exercise is going to be a bicep exercise. I like to do this for 2 reasons. One being I use the Cybex Eagle for both of them, so I can just do one after the other. But the second reason is, after I do the kind of high cable curl, if I go straight into another bicep exercise, I find that, like, you know, I'm kind of weak on it because my biceps are already pumped. So I feel like when I do one bicep exercise and then I go into doing my rear delt work and then I go back to doing the bicep work, I actually just save a lot of like energy for it, really, and I get a lot more out of it. So key cue here on a rear delt, right? Look at my hands. My palms are facing each other. If you haven't tried this doing rear delt work, guys, please do. You just get so much more engaging, because when you face your palms towards each other, your elbows actually point down towards the ground, and then that stops the elbows from coming too far back behind the body. And if your elbows come too far back behind your body and past your shoulder here, you're just working your upper back, right? We want to try and isolate the delts as much as possible here. Yes, you're still going to work your traps. Yes, you still will get a little bit of upper back when you're performing rear delts, but we want to minimize that as much as possible, okay? So I always try and cue my clients and say, elbows in line with your shoulders. That is where you finish on the rear delts. So if the elbows come back behind the shoulders, you're a little bit too much. So facing those palms towards each other and actually being able to drag back just helps keep you in that position a lot more, right? So we've got the final exercise here, guys, just a dual cable curl. You'll see here I'm using like that little back pad on the Cybex Eagle, and I actually really like this because Again, it just removes the use of momentum, right? If you don't have this back pad here, you're kind of stepping forward and you kind of, I encourage you to kind of swing that way up. Whereas here, you'll notice that where my hips are back underneath the pad and my toes are actually forward. So I'm actually in like a slight kind of like triangular position, so to speak. So when I'm in that position, I cannot swing. I cannot use any momentum. So all the tension here is going through my biceps. Literally the only thing that's moving is my forearm curling up and my biceps actually working here. And that's a wrap. Yes, guys, what is happening? We are back home. It is post-workout time and standard post-workout ritual. We've got our post-workout meal here and we've got a little bit of YouTube on. So just as I had actually hoped, come on then, focus. Just before I left, right, I was like, I'm really looking forward to the Arnold's this year, right? And just before I left, I was like, I've literally watched every single like podcast about Arnold's predictions, looking at the bodybuilders updates, etc. And I was like, I'm hooked, And I was like, I need something more because there's been a lot of updates the last couple of days. Horse has been posting a lot of updates. Raf has been posting some updates. Obviously, James has been training with Branch Warren, etc. Samson is over there now as well. So last 2-3 days on Instagram has just been boom, loads of updates out of nowhere. So I've been waiting for someone to cover it. So I've literally just come back home. 2 hours ago, Fuad has uploaded a new podcast. Final Arnold's picks, and Seth Feroci is on it as well, who I absolutely fucking love. So I'm going to sit down, I'm going to whack this on, going to enjoy my post-workout meal, and then I'll get back to updating you on the plan of action, I suppose. Alright guys, how are we? Welcome back. So it's about 2 days later. It is Saturday morning and I will finally go over our plans of action moving forward and the changes that have been made this week. So I spoke with Kuba when I checked in with him a couple of days ago and I just said, look mate, after 2 weeks on this kind of defeat setup, I feel a little bit better, but my appetite still just is not where it needs to be. And I was like, am I to push up further from here? I don't think I'm going to be able to last 7 weeks. And I feel like as well, with how my body was feeling and with how my training was going, I knew that those last couple of weeks would be unproductive, right? I've kind of learned from previous off seasons, even before I went into this push-up post-show, right? I think I realized after doing a really long, like 2.5 year off season where I had like 4 push-ups, that 20 weeks seems to be like the sweet spot for me to be like in that surplus pushing up, right? Normally my push-ups are like 24/25 weeks. And I think 20 weeks is just like my limit. Because I've done 24 weeks a lot of times and the same thing happens to me at the end of every single push-up. It doesn't matter whether I'm post-prep, whether I'm post-mini cut, whether I've done a 4-week mini cut, whether I've done an 8-week mini cut. It doesn't really matter. I always find that when I hit that kind of 20-week mark, things actually start to go downwards, trend downwards, right? And I think the appetite was kind of gone for a good while. My appetite was kind of gone for about 4, 5, 6 weeks maybe. And when you're constantly like slamming food like that, when your appetite like just isn't really there and your digestion starts to slow, I actually feel like you get like mega like inflamed, like your body is just like so inflamed, because I was finding that the longer I was going on shoving the meals into me, the more like tired I was getting after meals, the more I was getting like that really like sluggish kind of response off a high carb meal that you get, and that was getting like worse and worse. And I feel like there's just a lot of inflammation being driven, and I could notice that in the gym in my training because my joints were starting to get a little bit sore, recovery just wasn't really the way it was. So I just knew within myself, all right, things have gotten to the point now where we need to kind of take a step back, because I know that if I was to keep pushing, it would be like the end of all my other push-ups where I'm literally just struggling to hold on to numbers. I'm feeling like shit. My sleep starts to deteriorate, and my physique softens up. Because that is literally what has happened at the ends, at that last month kind of, or that last 6 weeks of like most of my push-ups when I haven't taken them to like the 6-month duration, right? So we're wrapping this push-up up after 18 weeks. Now, obviously that is 18 weeks plus the 5 weeks post-show. where we just cruised and did, a bit of a maintenance phase. Well, it wasn't a maintenance phase because we were in a surplus, technically, okay? So I have been 23 weeks in a surplus, and I have another 5 weeks left to go, because now we're going to do like a holding phase, right? Or maybe like 4 weeks, because technically this week we have stayed on the lower level of calories. Now, already this week, and I don't think it's anything to do with dropping down to a cruise, but training has started to pick back up again. I have started to feel less inflamed. My joints are less sore. And it's because now, finally, I can feel like the appetite is slowly starting to pick back up again, right? So this is the thing about bodybuilding, guys. I feel like the longer you're doing it, right? Bodybuilding obviously takes time. It takes so much time to build muscle. You're going through these phases, bulking, cutting, like, etc., etc. You learn so much about your body, right? And I feel like every single time I'm pushing up, I'm getting like more and more in tune with myself, more and more in tune with my training. You know, I'm really learning now when I need to take a step back from training to recover, you know, when I can kind of take those 50-50 reps with a spotter, when I can't, you know, what's going to bury me and what isn't. And I can kind of run the red line with my training now a little bit more. Obviously, at times that doesn't always go to plan. I still do kind of push it a little bit over the edge sometimes as well, but you kind of have to do that too, right? You can't be training like a pussy all the time. But you know, there are occasions where, you know, if I take that extra rep, man, coughing up a lung there. But anyway, there are times where I know if I like take those extra reps, or I take those force reps, that I'm going to bury myself. You know what I mean? There's times where like those reps are on, and there's times where I feel like they're not, you know, and this can be the frustrating part sometimes, because I know if Mark is watching this as well, Mark is always trying to kill me in the gym, man, always trying to kill me, and him and Kuba as well. Anytime they're in the gym and let's say I'm training legs there and training legs with me, like I'll just catch them for a spot or whatever, just so I can push out those last few reps. But you know, there's been situations where like the leg press, like there recently, the leg press literally started to come back down on top of me, and they had to grab it and push it back up. And then I racked the weight, because if I was to take one more rep there, they literally would have had to lift the whole thing back up off me. And I kind of knew that within myself as well. And then they're both like, you had another rep there. Kuba was like, your bracing was just gone. There was another rep there. Mark was like, yeah, another rep there. And I was like, are you for real? So that fucking vexes me. And I told Mark as well that it really fucking vexes me. And then the next leg day, after I told him that, fucking cunt tries to kill me on the leg press again, right? When I had one of those kind of slower kind of reps. Now, it wasn't as bad as it was on the Cybex press. Like on the Cybex squat press, the weight literally started to come back down on top of me. I do think when Mark was calling one more on that Arsenal strength top banded leg press, I do think I would have got that one more with him. I don't think he would have had to touch it, or if he did, it would have only been a small touch and I would have been able to get it up, but it might have drove me over the edge. So Kuba was actually like, Mark was like, one more, and Kuba was like screaming behind him, being like, no, rack it. And I just kind of turned around to him. He was like, do you want to deload again? And I was like, yeah, I don't. But again, it's the bravado that kind of gets you. You know what I mean? It's the bravado. It's, you know, not letting other people tell you that you had another rep left in you there, that you kind of left that weight down when you shouldn't have. And that can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse as well, because sometimes you can really fucking obliterate yourself, right? And it just takes you a little bit longer to recover. So it's just a push and a pull, right? Knowing when you need to do that and when you don't. I'm getting really good at like kind of nailing that down. And I'm also getting really good now at like knowing when I'm pushing the food too hard, and knowing when, seeing the signs of things starting to slip, and knowing when I need to pull back. Like I kind of said it to Kuba that I was struggling, and then we decided, all right, we're going to go into the defeed, and he was like, you're going to make it to the end of the push-up. We'll make it to that 25 weeks. You know, we'll take a step back. We'll bring your food back up. We'll push on. And after 2 weeks, I knew in myself how I felt. I'm like, yeah, mate, this isn't happening. So we're just going to hold now for 5 weeks, you know. We're going to mini cut then for like 8 weeks is what we have timelined. Like, I don't even think I'll need 8 weeks, to be honest. I think appetite wise, maybe 8 weeks would be great. But I think if I dieted for 8 weeks, I'd be like lean, because I'm like 109 kilos now. I have dropped off a little bit. 111.8 was my peak. I'm 109.1 now, right? So I am like a good 2.7 kilos down, which is like 6 or 7 pounds, right? But I'm pretty lean. You know what I mean? So like physique wise, visually, like I don't need a diet. And you know, visually it looks like I could even push up from here. But I think if I do that mini cut and get like pretty lean, or get like lean, man, I'll absolutely nail that next push-up. Like, I'll have a lot of runway ahead of me again. I think I'll probably be very similar to like post-show. I'll get another good 23, 24 week run of consistently gaining weight and consistently being able to gain a good chunk of weight. And, you know, I think for me as well, in previous off seasons, I've spent longer pushing up, but I've only pushed up by, let's say, a pound a week. This off season, I consistently pushed up like a pound and a half or over a pound and a half per week. And honestly, the progression strength-wise, size-wise, muscle-wise was much, much better. And my body composition has stayed like pretty much the same as well. So, you know, I do think for me, myself, I need to kind of be pushing things that little bit more. I have felt a lot better doing that this time around. So, you know, again, it's all just a learning. And the only reason I'm kind of rambling about all this, guys, and I'm like really dumping all my thoughts on YouTube now is that, like, I just kind of want to share, you know, my thought process behind all of this sort of stuff, right? And kind of share my lessons as well as I'm going along, and just make you realize as well that if you're early on in your bodybuilding journey, right, you know, you kind of need to take things to extremes. You need to push yourself. You need to know and learn your own body, right? And if someone is watching this video and they think, oh yeah, well, Dara can only push up for you know, 20 weeks and then he needs to wrap it up and then he needs to hold and diet, so I think I need to do that. No, right? You could last longer than that. You know, you could last maybe 24 weeks. You could last 28 weeks, you know, without having to pull back. It's going to be very different from person to person. Or, you know, you might only last 16 weeks. Who fucking knows, right? But it's literally taken me, I would actually say I've been working with Kuba 3 years, and it's probably taken me 3 years to actually really figure that out and nail that down and know that, okay, no, enough is enough. I think I knew after like one of my second push-up that I did with him before I went to Croatia, and I said it to him as well. I was like, mate, I think I need to diet here towards the end of it. And he made me push for another couple of weeks. And honestly, when I dropped into a cruise for that kind of 6 weeks, it was the worst I felt in my whole entire life in my bodybuilding journey so far. And then when I dieted, when I came back from holiday, it took me 8 weeks to get what would normally take 4 weeks off me body fat wise. So I knew after that, it was confirmation to myself that I should have listened to my own body. I should have put my foot down a little bit more, which is kind of why I'm doing that now, you know. And then that push-up, that was off. That was the push-up before my prep, right? So I obviously mini-cut it for 8 weeks at the start. And then I pushed up afterwards for 16 weeks because I only had 16 weeks. I didn't have, like, you know, because of the 8 week mini cut. So I pushed up for 16 weeks and then I held for 6 weeks, right? So that was actually 22 weeks of pushing up. And I remember that cruise was like the most successful cruise I ever had in terms of how I felt, how my sleep was and how my progression was. And that last push up before prep was my most successful yet. And it was because I spent less time in that calorie surplus. I spent 22 weeks in that calorie surplus. So, you know, I think that 22 to 24 week mark total in a calorie surplus is like that sweet spot for me. And, you know, I believe anything further than that, and I'm getting greedy with it, right? I think, you know, like maybe if I changed my approach in the future and I went a little bit slower, went really, really slow, I might get a little bit longer. But I don't know, man. It doesn't matter how much you're gaining. I think it just matters how long you're in the surplus for until that fatigue starts to catch up on you. So, look, anyway, I'm completely rambling, but hopefully all these insights and me dumping on the camera here might be kind of like useful information for anyone who is kind of interested. Yeah, but it's just a bodybuilder's thought process, isn't it? So, cruise for the next 5 weeks, guys, or technically the next 4, as week number 1 is down. I will go over my dosages in the next video, so you're gonna have to stay tuned for that one. That'll be a little bit of a tease, and you know, I'll just take you along through the cruise as best as I possibly can, let you know how I'm kind of feeling, let you know how things are ticking over. Hopefully we can actually maintain, you know, 110 kilos. I think my food is going to be pushed up now at the end of this week, because we have dropped off a lot of weight and we're probably in a deficit now, and we don't want to be in a deficit. We want to be probably in a slight surplus. So food is going to get pushed back up a little bit, but I only have to kind of maintain that for like a month, which I think should be easy. And then I'm going to be diving into a mini cut, and that's going to be a complete reset. And then we push up again from there. And then who knows if I make similar progress to what I think I truly have made. This push-up prep at the end of the year could even be on the cards. Who knows? I'll have to see what I look like at the end of the mini cut. if I can get to like 103, 104 and I look like pretty lean, then I know after one more push-up of this caliber, if I can end up in the realms of like 115 to 118 kilos, probably like 118 kilos, like I'll definitely be ready to prep, I reckon. So yeah, exciting times ahead, guys. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, and I'll catch you in the next one.